Hi guys, today we'll be talking about how to make some soy milk with some zero waste recipes for the soy pulp. So I used approximately 100 grams of soybeans to make 1.2 liters of soy milk. But at this stage, you don't really have to measure how much water you're putting in. Just soak the soybeans properly in water, make sure it's all submerged. Give it a little wash, maybe not like that. And be sure to look out for soybeans that are discolored and pick those out. So these will be soaking overnight and they'll definitely double, if not triple in size.
The next day.
Look at how plump they are. So now we want to remove the skins from the soybeans. This is totally optional, but some people say that it makes the final product less bitter. If you rub the soybeans between your fingers, this removes the skins more easily and you can pick them out afterwards. So here I am just, scrubbing away. And I did this in far too small of a bowl, but if you add more water, the skins should also float to the surface, which makes them even easier to scoop out. So now it's time to blend. Add the soybeans and around half the amount of water, so 600 ml in this case. You definitely don't need a high power blender for this. Any blender will do because the soybeans are soft enough to be pulverized by basically any blender. Just blend it until it turns creamy like this. So prepare a pot and a strainer. And I have this nuts milk bag that I like to turn inside out so that the seamless part is on the inside. This just ensures that the soy pulp won't get stuck in the corners of the bag, and it just makes it easier to clean later on. This is probably the most meditative part of the whole process. This will take time, but I feel like the end product is so worth it. And we're also so used to getting instant access to food that it's also kind of nice to work for it a little bit. Alright, so just keep squeezing away in batches, and once you're done with the blended mixture, I like to fill up my blender with about 300 mils of water and clean out my blender and pour that into the soy pulp. And that kind of washes out the residual soy milk that is still stuck between the pulp, but also stuck in the blender. You don't want to waste any part of this, and when you pour water over the soy pulp and begin squishing again, you realize how much milk is still in there. Alright, and this is a tip that I also learned recently. You can take a bowl and take your soy pulp and dip it into the bowl, and it kind of does the same thing as pouring water over it. It just allows you to rehydrate the pulp so that you have more stuff to squish out of it, I guess. So I like doing this until the water coming out of the soy pulp becomes more translucent. And at that stage, you can move to the stove and start heating the soy milk up on medium heat. Make sure to keep an eye on it because it is milk and it will overspill, and you don't want to be cleaning up scalded milk. Make sure to also mix it around often so that it doesn't burn on the bottom, and after a while it'll begin to foam. Some people like to scoop this off, but I don't really see the purpose because once you boil it long enough, that foam will disappear as well. So for me, it's not worth the energy or the wasted milk. And after around 15 minutes of simmering, you can give it a taste. It should lose that pungent, unpleasant beanie flavor and become more like the soy milk that you get at an Asian supermarket or at a Taiwanese breakfast store. Basically, it just becomes a more muted beanie flavor, and that's what we're going for. Make sure to let the milk cool before pouring it into your container, and if you have goldfish memory like me, it might be helpful to write the date that you made it on the container. It basically holds for around 3 days, so just be aware of that. And then maybe have a photo shoot with it where you spill soybeans all over the place. I tried. And there you have it. Feel free to sweeten to taste or consume as is. It's delicious either way. But what do we do with the pulp? It's called okara in Japanese. I hope I'm not butchering that. But what I like to do is lay it out on a plate or some kind of a flat surface to allow it to dry out. It should have this Play-Doh-y consistency, but I find that there's too much water in it to use it as diversely as it can be used. And reducing the water content also allows for it to freeze better. So this is by far my favorite recipe to use okara for. They're really easy, they are really meaty, and they're also very versatile because you can switch up the spices. But yeah, so these are the ingredients you'll need. Some seitan, some nutritional yeast, and some flour, soy sauce, your choice of spices, these were Italian spices, an onion and some mustard, and obviously the okara. Toss it all into a food processor. You don't have to do it as violently as I did. I like to blend the onions first just so that it's more evenly incorporated. Pour the rest of your ingredients in at this point. Stop and scrape down the sides if you need to. It should be this texture. It kind of looks like ground beef, but also kind of feels like Play-Doh. This is my favorite part, rolling the balls. What you have to do next is steam them. So I'm putting them on this rack so that they can go into my pressure cooker later on. Oops. But you could also steam it directly on the plate if the plate is heat proof. So I was actually cooking something else underneath and I ended up steaming the balls on top in my Ninja Foodie. Just put the lid on and remember to protect your shelves. So the final product should be springy and have some bite to it. Check out my cream sauce video for meal ideas. Next up are okara coconut cookies. So equal parts flour and okara. Here I just took some frozen okara that I defrosted in the microwave. And then half as much desiccated coconut. So in this case, it's 25 grams. Use any sweetener you want. I used agave nectar, but you can also use sugar or maple syrup. And later on, you just adjust the amount of water necessary. And then a pinch of salt and some baking powder. To me, baking is not a science, so I'm just kind of winging it, but you can obviously check out the description for more precise measurements. Once again, I'm using way too small of a bowl. Trying to mix all of this together is very frustrating, so switch to a bigger bowl if you have one. The amount of water you add depends on the type of flour you use, so just kind of play it by eye and just add it slowly to combine everything. This is also optional, but I added some coconut oil for some extra fat, but you can also skip this if you're not a fan of oils. Combine until it's this kind of a texture. It should be kind of a paste, thick paste. And I'll be making this in my Ninja Foodie, which also has a bake function, but you can obviously use it in the oven at 190 degrees Celsius. I just lined this rack with some parchment paper, and now I'm shaping the cookies into tiny little cute portions, bite-sized cookies basically. Put it into your air fryer or your oven. I was kind of experimenting and spritzed it with some oil, and I think it ended up adding more color to the final product, but obviously that step is also optional. So I baked it on 190 degrees for around 16 minutes and flipped it halfway through. So they get a little crispy on the outside, but they're still soft and chewy on the inside, and they're great for a snack in between. You can really taste the soy and the coconut flavors, and they're just delicious and healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope I'll have more videos coming out soon. Bye!